Two men approach the same woman at an upscale bar in New York City. Both are successful, well-dressed, and confident. One leads with a physical compliment. The other uses the comfort-building technique I'm about to show you. What happens next reveals everything about female psychology most men miss. Within minutes, the first man receives nothing more than a polite smile and dismissal. Meanwhile, the second enjoys animated conversation, maintained eye contact, and even occasional touch on his arm. Why such different reactions to seemingly similar men? Have you ever wondered what secret signals create instant rapport versus instant rejection? The answer lies in understanding subtle psychological triggers that transform ordinary interactions into meaningful connections. The compliment trap. Have you ever noticed how quickly an attractive woman's eyes glaze over after you compliment her appearance? It happens so fast you might miss it. That subtle shift from initial politeness to sudden disinterest. One moment she's smiling, the next she's checking her phone or scanning the room. This reaction confuses many men because we've been taught that women love compliments. The conventional wisdom says telling a beautiful woman she's beautiful creates an instant connection. It seems logical. People enjoy hearing nice things about themselves, right? This approach feels safe, easy, and natural when you're not sure what to say. The problem is that it fails consistently with high-value women, and understanding why will transform your dating results. Beautiful women. Hear about their appearance dozens of times every single day. The average attractive woman wakes up to multiple compliment notifications on her social media. Her dating apps overflow with messages praising her looks. Throughout her day, she encounters cashiers, co-workers, and strangers who comment on her appearance. By evening, when you approach her with yet another appearance-based compliment, you become merely the 20th person saying essentially the same thing. Her dating app inbox resembles a predictable catalog of flattery. Generic appearance compliments. You're so beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. Specific feature compliments. Your eyes are hypnotic. Your smile is amazing. Slightly more creative variants that still focus entirely on looks. You must be a model. Did it hurt when you fell from heaven? And finally, the overtly sexual messages. These compliments become like fading echoes in a noisy room, indistinguishable from one another, and ultimately ignored. Consider Mark, who approached a woman at a coffee shop last week. His opening line, "I just had to tell you that you have the most beautiful eyes I've ever seen," earned him a polite smile and thank you. Within 30 seconds, she was checking her phone. By minute 2, she had excused herself. Mark was left wondering what went wrong with his foolproof approach. Complimenting a woman's appearance works against you in 2 critical ways. First, it instantly categorizes you with every other man she encounters, unoriginal and focused primarily on her exterior. Second, it creates an immediate power imbalance. When you lead with appearance-based praise, you position yourself as the admirer and her as the admired. This dynamic creates what psychologists call evaluation apprehension, the uncomfortable feeling of being judged solely on appearance. A University of Minnesota study found that women who received appearance-focused compliments reported feeling more self-conscious and less engaged in subsequent conversation. I've asked dozens of attractive women about their internal response to physical compliments from strangers. Their answers reveal a consistent pattern. A 28-year-old marketing executive explained, "When a guy immediately comments on my looks, I smile and say thank you, because that's polite. But inside, I'm thinking, here we go again. Another man who sees nothing beyond my appearance. I'm already planning my exit from the conversation." A 32-year-old attorney described feeling a combination of boredom and disappointment. "It tells me right away this person lacks imagination. There's nothing personal about these compliments. He'd say the same thing to any attractive woman. It makes me feel interchangeable." Another woman put it more directly, "Physical compliments from strangers feel like monopoly money, worthless because they're handed out so freely." This redundancy in compliments leads directly to what beautiful women actually value in conversation: These same women described their reactions to men who didn't comment on their appearance. One explained, "When someone engages with me about something other than how I look, it's actually a relief. I can relax and be myself instead of feeling like I'm on display." Another noted, "The men who stand out are the ones who seem interested in my thoughts rather than my face or body." The way to create genuine interest with attractive women isn't by confirming what they already know about their physical appeal. Immediate physical compliments signal to a high-value woman that you lack social intelligence and originality. They indicate you're responding to her exactly like countless men before you. What works instead? Understanding a psychological need beautiful women have that most men completely miss. Beautiful women don't need validation of their appearance. They need to feel seen beyond their exterior. They need someone who might recognize them as complete individuals with thoughts, experiences, and substance. This doesn't mean never compliment a woman. Timing and content make all the difference. High-value women are surrounded by men attempting to connect through superficial praise. When you understand why this fails, you can position yourself differently from the beginning. This isn't about tricks or manipulation. It's about recognizing a basic human need often overlooked in attractive women. In the next section, we'll examine the psychological phenomenon of compliment fatigue and why beautiful women find appearance-based compliments not just ineffective, but boring. Understanding this psychology is the first step to changing how high-value women respond to you. The psychology behind compliment fatigue. What happens in a beautiful woman's mind when the 20th man of the day tells her she's gorgeous? To understand this, picture yourself receiving the same compliment repeatedly, hour after hour. The first time, you might feel flattered. By the 5th time, it feels routine. By the 20th time, you barely register it as meaningful communication. This is the reality for attractive women who experience what psychologists describe as compliment fatigue. It's a state where repeated praise about appearance stops registering as meaningful and starts feeling like background noise. Similar to hearing your favorite song on repeat until it loses its melody and becomes an indistinct sound. If you heard "nice shirt" 20 times every day for years, would the 21st comment still evoke any genuine emotional response? Probably not. The psychology behind this phenomenon reveals something counterintuitive. The more attractive a woman is, the less value she typically places on hearing about it. Beautiful women aren't ungrateful or dismissive. Their brains have simply adapted to repeated stimuli by reducing response, a process neurologists call habituation. Most high-value women have received appearance-based compliments since childhood, creating a form of psychological numbness where physical compliments become increasingly ineffective at creating positive emotional responses. Sarah, a 29-year-old marketing executive I interviewed, explained her experience. "When someone comments on my looks, it doesn't register as personal anymore. It feels like they're commenting on the weather. I smile and say thank you automatically, but inside I'm thinking about my grocery list or what I need to do tomorrow." What many men don't realize is that compliments focused solely on appearance can make women feel reduced to their looks rather than appreciated as complete individuals. Jessica, a 31-year-old attorney, described it this way: "When the first thing out of someone's mouth is about my appearance, it feels like they're putting me in a box labeled pretty and nothing else. I've worked incredibly hard to build my career and develop myself as a person. When all someone sees is my exterior, it feels dismissive of everything else I am." Research on objectification theory supports this experience. Studies show that when women feel valued primarily for their appearance, they experience what psychologists call self-objectification. They begin to view themselves from an observer's perspective and become more concerned with how they look than how they feel or what they accomplish. Physical compliments can also trigger suspicion about intentions. When a woman has experienced countless men who began with appearance-based compliments as a way to initiate romantic interest, She develops a pattern recognition system. Her brain quickly categorizes men who lead with physical compliments as potentially having similar motives to those she's encountered before. A study from the University of Minnesota found that women were more likely to question the sincerity of compliments about their appearance than compliments about their character, abilities, or actions. The researchers concluded that appearance-focused compliments create evaluation anxiety, uncertainty about whether the compliment was genuine or had ulterior motives. So what do beautiful women actually crave instead of surface validation? They want to be seen, heard, and valued for who they are beyond their appearance. In a world where their looks often become their defining characteristic in others' eyes, the opportunity to connect with someone who recognizes their complete humanity becomes increasingly rare and valuable. Think about your own experience. Don't you value people who appreciate you for your character, intelligence, and unique qualities more than those who focus on surface-level attributes? This human need for authentic recognition extends to everyone, including attractive women. Emma, a 27-year-old graphic designer, summed it up perfectly. When someone compliments my appearance, they're telling me something I already know. When someone notices something about my perspective, or asks me a thoughtful question about my interests, they're showing me they see something deeper. That's what actually creates a connection. Understanding this psychology gives you a significant advantage in connecting with high-value women. Rather than following the crowd with appearance-based compliments, you can address her deeper psychological needs for recognition, understanding, and authentic connection. This doesn't mean you should never compliment a beautiful woman. It means that leading with physical compliments is a strategic error. If your goal is to create genuine interest and connection, the timing, content, and context of compliments matter enormously in how they're received. So if physical compliments don't create the connection you're looking for, what does a high-value woman actually need from you? The answer lies in understanding a surprising psychological paradox that exists for many beautiful women, one that creates an opportunity for men who understand it. Beautiful women often experience a unique form of relationship insecurity that contradicts their confident exterior. Learning to recognize and address this need will completely transform how they respond to you. The security paradox. Did you know that beautiful women often feel more insecure about where they stand with you than average-looking women? This might seem counterintuitive. After all, attractive women receive constant attention and validation. They have options. They have pretty privilege. Yet beneath this confident exterior often lies a surprising relationship insecurity that most men completely miss. When you look at a beautiful woman, you probably assume she knows her worth. The reality is more complex. Many high-value women experience profound uncertainty about genuine connection that shapes how they respond to men. While she basks in attention, a shadow of doubt lingers about whether people value her beyond her appearance. Understanding this paradox gives you immediate insight into what's actually happening beneath the surface during interactions. Think about the typical experience of a beautiful woman. From an early age, she receives disproportionate attention based on her looks. Men approach her regularly, offering help, gifts, and opportunities, often with ulterior motives. Over time, this creates a specific kind of insecurity. She knows men desire her physically, but she's never quite sure if they value who she actually is as a person. This dynamic creates what psychologists call attribution uncertainty, the difficulty in determining whether someone's interest stems from genuine appreciation or is merely a response to physical attraction. For beautiful women, this uncertainty becomes a constant companion in their interactions with men. Lauren, a 30-year-old marketing executive I interviewed, explained, "When a guy seems really interested in me, there's always this question in the back of my mind. Is he interested in me or just how I look? Would he be this attentive if I didn't look the way I do? You never really know." Consider Mia's experience at a networking event. Despite her impressive business credentials, the senior executive who offered to mentor her later made uncomfortable advances. She was left wondering whether any of his professional praise was genuine or simply a strategy to get closer to her. This experience reinforced her anxiety about being valued for her mind versus her appearance. Like wearing a mask they can never remove, beautiful women often struggle to determine if a partner values their complete selves or primarily their appearance. This creates a vulnerability that might surprise you. They need more reassurance about emotional connection, not less. The concept of pretty privilege highlights this paradox. Attractive people often receive preferential treatment. They're more likely to be perceived as competent and trustworthy based solely on appearance. However, this same privilege creates significant relationship challenges, resulting in objectification anxiety, the concern that others view them primarily as physical objects rather than complete human beings. Many beautiful women develop a heightened sensitivity to determining whether someone appreciates their non-physical qualities. They become experts at detecting when someone sees them as interchangeable with any other attractive woman, versus when someone recognizes their unique personality. Sarah, a 28-year-old teacher, described, "I've had relationships where I realized guy didn't really know me at all. He was in love with how I looked and the idea of having an attractive girlfriend. But when I talked about my passions, he wasn't really listening. That feels incredibly lonely." Beautiful women receive more initial interest, but often find it harder to form genuine connections. They encounter more people who want to be with them but fewer who want to know them beyond surface level. This makes authentic connection particularly valuable to high-value women. Research supports this understanding. Studies show that extremely attractive women report higher levels of concern about being liked for their authentic selves rather than their appearance. They also report more difficulty trusting partners' expressions of love or appreciation. Another study revealed that highly attractive people sometimes struggle with attractiveness anxiety, the fear that their appearance overshadows other aspects of their identity. This anxiety is particularly pronounced in romantic contexts. This explains why many beautiful women have a heightened radar for authenticity. They've developed this sensitivity through repeated experiences with people who treated them as trophies rather than individuals. They're responding to a legitimate pattern they've observed throughout their lives. The insight that transforms your approach is recognizing that behind the confident exterior, high-value women often experience fundamental uncertainty about where they stand emotionally with men they date. They know you find them physically attractive. What they don't know is whether you see and value who they actually are. Beautiful women need to feel secure about where they stand with you emotionally, not physically. They need to know your interest extends beyond what everyone else notices. When you understand this need, you can address it through specific conversation approaches that create comfort and emotional security. In the next section, we'll examine specific signs that show a high-value woman is uncertain about where she stands with you. These subtle cues are easy to miss if you don't know what to look for. But once you recognize them, you'll have clear opportunities to build emotional security that creates genuine connection. Greeting or uncertainty. Can you spot these subtle signs that she doesn't know where she stands with you? Most men miss them completely. These signals aren't obvious because high-value women rarely directly express uncertainty about your interest. They've learned to protect themselves from vulnerability by keeping these questions internal, but their behavior often reveals what they're not saying out loud. Missing these subtle cues means missing crucial opportunities to build real connection. When you recognize these signals of uncertainty, you can address them directly and create the emotional security she's looking for. This changes how she experiences your interactions and separates you from other men who remain oblivious to what's happening beneath the surface. Let's examine specific behavioral indicators that show she's unsure of your genuine interest. These signs reveal important information about her emotional state and give you clear opportunities to build comfort and trust. Pay attention to reassurance-seeking behaviors, subtle ways she gauges your interest without directly asking. She mentions others who find her attractive to observe your reaction. She brings up social events to see if you express interest in joining. She creates small moments of distance to see if you notice or reach out. Michelle, a 29-year-old consultant, shared, "I found myself telling this guy about another man who asked me out, then watching closely for his reaction. I wasn't interested in the other guy. I just wanted to see if he showed signs of caring. Looking back, I was testing to see if he had genuine interest in me." When uncertain about your interest, she often increases communication frequency. She might text more often, ask follow-up questions, or find reasons to continue conversations. She's maintaining connection while gauging your responsiveness. Consistent initiation of contact or very quick responses to your messages typically indicate she's seeking reassurance. Testing behaviors clearly indicate uncertainty. These include mentioning other options she has, creating artificial distance, or introducing small challenges. Consider this scenario. Sarah mentions being extremely busy with work for the next 2 weeks, then carefully watches how James responds. Will he make an effort to see her despite her schedule? Will he suggest specific plans? Her busy schedule is actually a test to measure his interest level. Alex, a dating coach specializing in female psychology, explains, "When a woman suddenly mentions being busy or brings up a male friend who's been spending time with her, she's often testing your response. Your reaction gives her data about your interest level. Watch for inconsistent communication patterns, fluctuating response times, varying enthusiasm in messages, or changing frequency of initiation. These inconsistencies signal she's unsure of your feelings and assessing your commitment level. Listen for seemingly casual questions designed to probe where she stands. Questions about your past relationships. Inquiries about your future plans. Questions about your thoughts on commitment. Asking about your weekend plans to see if you include her. Inquiring about other people you're dating. To gauge exclusivity, body language provides clear indications of uncertainty. Nervousness signals, fidgeting, playing with hair, adjusting clothing, changing eye contact patterns during relationship discussions, proximity behaviors, finding reasons to be physically closer, brief touches during conversation, mirroring your posture, gestures, or speech patterns, voice tone changes, slight pitch increases when discussing emotional topics, hesitation before responding to questions about relationship status. When you recognize these uncertainty signals, you gain a significant advantage in building connection. Rather than misinterpreting them, you can address them directly through specific comfort-building techniques. This ability to recognize and respond creates emotional security that most men never provide. The resolution involves using these recognition skills to implement targeted comfort-building approaches. When you notice uncertainty signals, you can respond with reassurance that addresses her underlying concern without making her feel exposed. This creates a dynamic where she feels understood on a deeper level, a powerful foundation for genuine connection. Now let's examine the specific comfort-building approach that works better than any compliment. This framework directly addresses the emotional uncertainty we've identified, creating a sense of security that transforms how high-value women respond to you. Instead of using traditional attraction techniques focused on physical interest, this approach creates emotional connection by addressing her deeper psychological needs. The Comfort Connection Framework. What if there was a conversation approach that made high-value women feel more connected to you than to any other man they've met? I'm not talking about clever lines or manipulation tactics. I'm talking about a framework that addresses the fundamental psychological needs we've been discussing, one that creates genuine emotional security rather than just physical validation. The Comfort Connection Framework focuses on creating emotional safety and recognition that beautiful women rarely experience in their interactions with men. While most dating approaches center around appearance compliments or displaying high value, this framework addresses what high-value women actually need: genuine emotional security. Think of this framework as building a secure bridge between two people. Traditional approaches build bridges that look impressive but lack structural integrity. The Comfort Connection Framework creates a bridge that's both beautiful and structurally sound. allowing both people to cross safely into deeper connection. This approach requires abandoning common dating advice about being mysterious or playing hard to get. These strategies might create short-term intrigue, but fail to address the security paradox we discussed earlier. When a beautiful woman already feels uncertain about her emotional standing with you, adding uncertainty through game playing reinforces her concern that you're interested only in her appearance. This framework consists of 3 core elements that work together: validation, vulnerability, and vision. Each addresses a specific aspect of the emotional security high-value women seek. I recently coached Michael, who used this approach with a woman he'd been interested in for months. When she mentioned feeling overlooked for a promotion, instead of suggesting ways to get noticed, he simply said, "That must be disappointing, especially knowing how dedicated you are to your work." She later told him it was the first time someone had acknowledged her feelings without trying to fix the situation. The first element is validation. Emotional, rather than appearance-based. Emotional validation acknowledges and affirms a woman's feelings, experiences, and perspectives. It communicates that you value her internal world. For example, imagine she shares a challenging work situation. Rather than immediately offering solutions, you might say, "That situation sounds really frustrating, especially when you've put so much effort into the project." This simple acknowledgement shows you're listening and her experience matters to you. The second element is calibrated vulnerability. Many men either share nothing personal or overshare too soon. Calibrated vulnerability means sharing authentic thoughts and feelings in a measured way that builds trust without triggering protective instincts. This might involve gradually revealing more meaningful aspects of your character as connection develops. For instance, sharing an honest perspective about a challenge you overcame, or expressing genuine appreciation for something specific about her personality. Jason, another client, shared how during a second date, he talked about discovering his passion for teaching after initially pursuing a corporate career. He didn't overshare personal details, but revealed something meaningful about his values. His date later commented that his willingness to share this pivot point in his life helped her feel comfortable opening up about her own career uncertainties. The third element is vision. Communicating your vision means sharing your sense of purpose, values, and direction in life. This isn't about impressing her with achievements, but providing the context that creates emotional security. For example, briefly mentioning a community project you're invested in, or explaining why you chose your career path, reveals values without seeming rehearsed. When Tim casually mentioned his 5-year plan to balance his business growth with more time for family, his date told him it was refreshing to meet someone who thought beyond the immediate future. These 3 elements connect synergistically. Validation creates the safety to share vulnerably, vulnerability builds authentic connection, and vision provides the framework for potential shared futures. Together they create a dynamic that addresses her core need for emotional security while distinguishing you from other men. The comfort connection framework works because it directly addresses the security paradox. It provides clear signals that you value her complete self. Instead of creating uncertainty, it provides clarity. Instead of focusing on physical attraction, it creates emotional connection. What makes this framework effective is that it's not a script, but a set of principles guiding authentic communication. Implemented naturally, these principles create the emotional security that high-value women seek, but rarely find. In the next section, we'll examine specific conversation starters that put this framework into action. Practical approaches designed to create emotional security while naturally moving conversations toward deeper connection. Conversation starters that create connection. What specific questions can instantly separate you from every other man she's talking to? I've tested dozens of conversation approaches with high-value women, and I've discovered that the right questions create immediate connection, while the wrong ones get you politely dismissed. The difference comes down to signaling that you see beyond her exterior to who she actually is. The right conversation starters show you're interested in her mind and personality, They create opportunities for her to reveal her values and perspectives, elements that most men overlook. When you focus on these deeper aspects, you immediately stand apart from others who remain fixated on surface-level attributes. These questions must be delivered naturally within conversation flow. The key is introducing them organically as your interaction develops, showing authentic curiosity rather than working through a checklist. Let me share 5 specific conversation starters that build comfort and reveal personality. First, what part of your life are you most excited about right now? This question immediately elevates beyond small talk and reveals what's meaningful to her. In my coaching sessions, I've found women respond with genuine enthusiasm to this question because it acknowledges them as complex individuals with passions and priorities. Her answer creates natural pathways to follow-up conversations about her interests and goals. Second, what's something you believe that most people disagree with? This invites her to share a perspective that's uniquely her own. Her answer gives you insight into her independent thinking and values. This question works because it's unexpected. According to my research, fewer than 5% of initial conversations ever venture into territory that reveals independent thought. Third, what's a quality you really value in the people you're closest to? This reveals her relationship values without directly asking about relationships. Her answer shows what she prioritizes in meaningful connections. This question creates space for her to share what matters to her in interpersonal dynamics, often revealing core values that guide her life choices. Fourth, what's something you've changed your mind about in the last few years? This shows you're interested in her growth as a person. Her answer reveals how she processes new information and experiences, giving you insight into her adaptability and self-awareness. Women consistently report appreciating this question because it acknowledges their capacity for growth. Fifth, if you could master any skill overnight, what would you choose? This playful question reveals her aspirations while keeping the conversation light. Her answer shows what she values and which capabilities she wishes to develop. This creates natural follow-ups about her interests, while giving you insight into how she might want to grow. Questions about values work better than fact-based questions because they reveal who she is. Fact-based questions like "What do you do for work?" yield information, but little insight into her character. They're questions she's answered countless times before. Value-based questions invite her to share her unique viewpoint, something she discusses far less frequently. How you frame these questions matters as much as the questions themselves. Frame with genuine curiosity rather than judgment. Ask open-ended questions without implying there's a right answer. Your tone should communicate sincere interest in her perspective. Instead of asking, "Do you like to travel?" ask, "What kinds of experiences do you look for when traveling?" This invites her to share values without feeling evaluated. Your facial expression should reinforce your genuine curiosity. Follow-up questions deepen the conversation and demonstrate active listening. When she answers, explore elements in her response further. If she mentions valuing authenticity, you might ask, "What does authenticity look like to you in everyday interactions?" Good follow-ups include phrases like, "What makes you say that?" or "How did you come to that perspective?" These invite elaboration without challenging her initial response. They signal that you find her thoughts worth exploring further. Active listening makes these conversations effective. Focus completely on what she's saying rather than planning your next comment. Notice her word choices and emotional responses as she answers. Reference details from her earlier responses to show you're truly engaged. When implemented effectively, these conversation approaches reveal her personality and create opportunities for genuine connection. They address what high-value women actually want: to be seen and valued beyond appearance. Remember though, conversation alone isn't enough. Your body language must align with your words to create a complete message of authentic interest. Let's examine how your nonverbal cues can powerfully reinforce the connection you've begun building through thoughtful conversation. Body language that shows you're different. How can your nonverbal communication instantly signal that you're not just another guy trying to get something from her? Your body language often speaks louder than your words. When meeting a high-value woman, what your body communicates can either support your conversation or completely undermine it, regardless of how good your verbal approach might be. Body language accounts for over 50% of communication in face-to-face interactions. This nonverbal aspect can either reinforce or contradict what you're saying. Think about times when someone told you they were fine, but their crossed arms, tight jaw, and averted gaze told you otherwise. The same principle applies when you're interacting with women you're interested in. Your body is constantly sending messages. Most men's body language around beautiful women communicates either insecurity or obvious sexual interest. Both immediately categorize you as typical. Insecurity shows through nervous fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, closed posture, or overcompensated movements. Focus on physical attraction appears as leaning in too closely, excessive eye contact, or positioning to display dominance. Both patterns create discomfort rather than connection. Your body language is the silent handshake of attraction, making a strong first impression before you even speak. Try this quick exercise. Right now, imagine walking into a room where someone you're attracted to is standing. Notice how your body naturally responds. Do your shoulders round forward? Do your hands search for pockets? Being aware of these automatic responses is your first step toward changing them. Several key adjustments to your body language can signal confidence without arrogance. Posture and orientation. Stand straight with shoulders back and relaxed, not forced or rigid. This natural upright posture signals self-assurance without appearing tense. Avoid both slouching, signals disinterest, and chest puffing, appears aggressive. Position yourself at a slight angle, about 45 degrees rather than directly face-to-face, creating a more casual, less pressured interaction environment. Hand positioning and gestures. Keep hands visible rather than in pockets or behind your back, which can signal nervousness or dishonesty. Avoid fidgeting with objects, your phone or clothes. Allow your hands to rest comfortably at your sides, or use natural measured gestures when speaking to signal confidence and openness. Eye contact and facial expressions. Make direct eye contact when she's speaking to show engagement, but break it naturally when appropriate. A good rule is maintaining eye contact for about 70% of the conversation. Break eye contact by looking to the side occasionally rather than down. Signals insecurity, or up, appears disinterested. Allow your expressions to respond naturally to the conversation, showing genuine interest through subtle nods, appropriate smiles, and engaged expressions that match the emotional tone. Physical distance and openness. Maintain about 18-24 inches during initial conversations in most Western contexts. This distance allows for connection while respecting personal space. Keep your arms uncrossed to create an open front that signals receptiveness and honesty. Your shoulders should remain down and relaxed rather than tensed up toward your ears, communicating comfort in your own skin. Mirroring techniques build subconscious rapport. When done subtly, gently match elements of her body language after a short delay, rather than immediately, and at about 50% intensity. If she leans forward while making an important point, you might do the same moments later. If her speaking pace is measured, adjust your pace accordingly. This creates a sense of understanding without being obvious. These body language adjustments work because they communicate security rather than need. Most men approach beautiful women with body language that reveals either insecurity, needing validation, or obvious physical interest, wanting something. When your nonverbal communication signals confidence, comfort, and genuine interest in connection, you immediately differentiate yourself. The cumulative effect creates an interaction where she feels comfortable rather than evaluated or pursued. This comfort creates space for genuine connection without the pressure or discomfort that characterizes most of her interactions with men. By communicating security through your body language, you create an environment where authentic connection becomes possible. Understanding effective body language is just the beginning. Next, we'll examine common dating advice that actually sabotages your chances with high-value women. Recognizing which popular strategies backfire gives you a significant advantage in creating genuine connection rather than following approaches that seem logical but undermine your results. Dating advice that backfires. Which popular dating strategies actually push high-value women away? If you've spent any time researching dating advice online, you've probably encountered techniques that promise to make women chase you, create attraction, or stand out from other men. The problem is that much of this mainstream dating advice is actually designed for quantity rather than quality connections. It's optimized for initial responses rather than creating genuine connection with high-value women. Following this advice might get you initial attention, but it often destroys long-term interest with the women you actually want to connect with. This creates a frustrating cycle where you might get responses or first dates, but find that high-value women quickly lose interest afterward. Understanding which common strategies backfire gives you a significant advantage in your dating approach. Let's identify specific pieces of common dating advice that consistently backfire with high-value women. One of the most problematic is negging, the practice of giving backhanded compliments or subtle insults to lower a woman's confidence and make her seek your approval. This approach fundamentally misunderstands female psychology. Instead of creating attraction, negging creates discomfort and signals poor emotional intelligence. High-value women have encountered this approach countless times and can immediately recognize it as manipulation rather than genuine interest. Sarah, a 29-year-old marketing executive, described her experience. When a guy starts using obvious tactics, I instantly feel like I'm being manipulated rather than connected with. I've heard the same spontaneous stories from different men and recognized the same conversation patterns. It immediately signals that he's not actually interested in me specifically. Similarly, playing hard to get often backfires with high-value women. This approach involves being deliberately unresponsive, creating artificial scarcity with your time and attention, or showing inconsistent interest to create pursuit behavior. While the theory suggests people value what's scarce, this strategy creates exactly the wrong emotional experience for high-value women. Remember the security paradox we discussed earlier? Beautiful women often experience uncertainty about genuine connection. When you deliberately create more uncertainty through inconsistent communication, you're amplifying the exact concern she already has rather than addressing it. In contrast, being mysterious sounds reasonable, but often creates the opposite of the intended effect. This approach involves deliberately withholding information about yourself or giving vague answers to personal questions. With high-value women, this typically backfires because it creates emotional distance rather than connection. Studies consistently show that perceived authenticity was one of the strongest predictors of attraction and relationship development, particularly for individuals seeking long-term connection. A comprehensive review published in the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that authenticity outperforms manipulation in creating lasting attraction. Additionally, research from the University of California found that attempts at strategic self-presentation in dating contexts were often recognized by partners and typically decreased rather than increased attraction when detected. Pickup artist tactics more broadly signal low emotional intelligence to perceptive women. Techniques like using pre-planned stories, employing strategic touch patterns, or following rigid conversation formulas might seem sophisticated to those studying them, but they're often transparent to emotionally intelligent women. I once coached a client who had memorized an entire conversation script. On his date, the woman interrupted him mid-story saying, "That's funny, a guy told me the exact same story last month." She immediately ended the date, recognizing he wasn't being authentic. These tactics create discomfort rather than attraction, because they prioritize techniques over genuine human connection. When a woman senses you're following a script rather than responding authentically, she experiences the interaction as performative rather than genuine. creating an immediate disconnect. Most common dating advice fundamentally misunderstands what makes a woman feel secure in early dating interactions. It focuses on creating artificial scarcity, mystery, or challenge rather than addressing the actual emotional needs that create connection. The core misunderstanding is the assumption that attraction works the same way for all women regardless of their experiences or emotional needs. For women who have experienced limited male attention, these tactics might temporarily work because the pursuit itself feels validating, but for high-value women who already receive abundant attention, these approaches simply signal that you're like every other man using tactics, rather than creating genuine connection. The most effective approach with high-value women isn't implementing clever techniques, but creating authentic connection that addresses their actual emotional needs. This means moving beyond surface-level interactions to conversations that reveal personality, character, and compatibility. Let's look at how to transition from initial conversations to meaningful connection that creates genuine interest and emotional investment. Deepening the connection. How do you move from interesting conversation to genuine emotional intimacy? Creating that first spark of connection is one thing, but building something meaningful requires a different approach altogether. Many men can create good first impressions. They know how to start conversations, ask initial questions, and generate interest. But then something happens. The connection plateaus, enthusiasm fades, and what seemed promising becomes just another interaction that goes nowhere. This happens because initial connection is merely the foundation. Deepening requires intention. Without a deliberate approach to building emotional intimacy, even promising connections remain surface level. Consider how often you've had a great first conversation with someone only to find the second or third interaction feels forced. This pattern emerges when you lack a clear pathway beyond first impression. Think of deepening connection like climbing a staircase where each step builds on the last. You can't skip steps without risking a fall, and each new elevation provides a broader perspective than the one before. Let me outline a three-stage approach to deepening emotional connection. Stage 1 establishes basic compatibility through shared interests and values. These conversations reveal enough to establish common ground without requiring significant vulnerability. For example, you might discuss your passion for rock climbing, explaining what draws you to the challenge, while she shares her love of painting and how it helps her process emotions. You're both revealing interests while hinting at deeper motivations. Stage 2 involves disclosure about past experiences that shaped your current values. This might include formative experiences or challenges you've overcome. Imagine sharing how growing up with a single parent taught you self-reliance, which she responds to by revealing how her parents' divorce affected her view of relationships. You're creating understanding about each other's foundations, the why behind who you are today. In Stage 3, present vulnerability takes center stage, sharing current challenges, hopes, and uncertainties. This disclosure shows that you trust her with your present self, including your growth edges. You might share your uncertainty about a career change you're considering, and she might respond by discussing her struggle to balance ambition with her desire for work-life balance. Each revelation creates space for genuine support rather than admiration based solely on past accomplishments. This progression works through the principle of progressive self-disclosure, gradually revealing more personal information as trust builds. Like swimming in a pool, you start in the shallow end, get comfortable, and move to deeper waters. As confidence grows, each disclosure makes the next one feel more natural and less risky. The key is calibration, sharing enough to create momentum without creating discomfort. This means revealing slightly more than feels completely comfortable, while staying well short of complete transparency. When you share something personal and she responds similarly, you both advance in trust and understanding. Certain conversation topics accelerate intimacy more effectively than others. Discussions about values, defining life experiences, and personal growth create deeper connections than talking about facts or external events. For instance, describing how you failed at launching your first business and what you learned reveals character more powerfully than listing career achievements. Consider these questions that reveal values and character. What belief have you significantly changed in your life? This shows how you process new information and grow. What difficult experience are you now grateful for? This reveals how you find meaning in challenges. What quality do you admire in others that you're developing in yourself? This demonstrates self-awareness and aspirations. When James asked Rebecca about a belief she'd changed, she hesitated before sharing how her views on success had transformed after burning out at her corporate job. This led to a deeper conversation about their definitions of fulfillment that wouldn't have emerged from casual discussion. Research shows that shared experiences accelerate bonding beyond conversation alone. While talking creates intellectual understanding, doing things together builds emotional connection through shared memories. Activities involving mild stress, novelty, or vulnerability are particularly effective. Even simple experiences like trying a new restaurant, taking a walking conversation, or participating in an activity requiring cooperation create stronger bonds than static environments. The transition from surface conversations to meaningful connection happens through this combination of progressive vulnerability and shared experiences. As you reveal more of your authentic self while creating memories together, the connection naturally deepens from initial interest to genuine emotional intimacy in a way that feels natural rather than forced. This approach addresses the fundamental human need for both safety and growth in relationships. Progressive disclosure ensures appropriate pacing, while increasing vulnerability creates the emotional depth that makes connection meaningful. Combined with shared experiences that create emotional memories, this approach builds connections that feel both secure and filled with possibility. The personality revelation question. What single question can tell you more about who she really is than hours of regular conversation? I've found that while most questions reveal what someone thinks, there's one question that reveals how someone thinks, and that difference is everything when it comes to understanding her true personality. Certain questions have the power to bypass our usual social filters and reveal core traits that we normally keep hidden. Think about standard first date questions like "What do you do for work?" or "Where are you from?" These give you facts, but tell you almost nothing about who someone really is. What if instead, you could ask something that reveals her internal thought processes, values, and how she actually sees the world? The challenge is that asking this type of revealing question requires perfect timing and context. Ask too soon, and she'll give you a guarded, surface-level response. Ask in the wrong setting, and you'll get a rushed answer that misses the depth you're looking for. The question needs to be introduced naturally when you've already established some baseline comfort and trust. The ideal moment comes after you've moved beyond initial small talk, but before you've settled into predictable conversation patterns. Psychologists have long studied how we project our own thoughts, feelings, and motivations onto neutral scenarios. This concept of projection forms the basis for revealing questions that tap into someone's inner psychology. When someone answers a well-crafted projective question, they inadvertently reveal their own internal framework for understanding the world. So what's the specific question that reveals more than any other? It's this. Tell me about a stranger you still remember. Someone you met briefly but who left a lasting impression on you. What was it about them that stayed with you? This question works because it accesses episodic memory. Memories tied to specific experiences rather than general knowledge. The stranger someone chooses to describe reveals what qualities they notice and value. Their description often mirrors qualities they either possess themselves or aspire to develop. How they structure their answer, focusing on appearance, actions, words, or feelings, reveals their primary mode of processing experiences. For example, if she describes a stranger who showed unexpected kindness to someone in need, this indicates she values compassion and notices how people treat others. If she remembers someone who expressed an unusual idea, this suggests she values intellectual originality. If she describes someone with remarkable presence, This indicates she values authenticity and emotional expression. The beauty of this question is that it feels like an interesting conversation starter, rather than a psychological probe. It comes across as genuine curiosity rather than evaluation, inviting a story rather than facts or opinions. Authentic answers include specific details about the encounter with a clear explanation of why it was meaningful. You'll notice the person takes a moment to think before answering, searching their memory rather than providing a rehearsed response. Their eyes often look up and to the side as they access genuine memories, and they typically include their emotional reaction to the encounter. Different personality types respond in distinctive ways. People focused on relationships often describe strangers who showed unusual emotional depth. Those who prioritize achievement frequently remember people who demonstrated exceptional skill. People who value stability might describe someone who showed remarkable composure in a chaotic situation. Those who prioritize exploration often remember people who embodied freedom or unconventional lifestyles. How you receive her answer shapes whether it becomes a meaningful moment of connection or just another conversation topic. Show genuine interest in the aspects of the story that reveal her values. Ask thoughtful follow-up questions that explore why certain qualities stood out to her. Share your own authentic response to her story before offering your own answer to the question. This question bypasses conscious filters. Rather than asking directly about values, which often triggers carefully curated responses, it accesses her natural way of perceiving others. The qualities she notices in others provide a window into how she sees herself and the world around her, giving you insight into her authentic personality rather than the image she consciously presents. Understanding someone's true personality creates the foundation for genuine connection. When you can see how she naturally processes experiences and what she authentically values, you can engage with her in a way that feels meaningful rather than superficial. This shifts your interaction from mutual evaluation to genuine understanding. Take time to practice this question in your conversations. Notice the patterns in responses and how they reveal deeper aspects of personality. By mastering this approach, you'll create authentic connections with high-value women in a way most men never experience. Your action plan for how do you implement all these strategies in today's complex dating landscape? Understanding principles is one thing, but actually applying them consistently is what separates theory from results. Dating high-value women in 2025 requires integrating multiple approaches simultaneously. From building emotional security to asking the right questions to maintaining appropriate body language. It's a lot to manage at once, especially when you're also dealing with the natural nervousness that comes with meeting someone new. Without a systematic plan, you'll likely fall back on ineffective habits when you're under pressure. This is how most men sabotage their own success. They learn better approaches, but revert to old patterns in the moment. You might intellectually understand that appearance compliments don't work, but when you're standing in front of a beautiful woman and feeling nervous, you might default to, "You look amazing tonight," simply because it's familiar and feels safe. Here's a step-by-step implementation plan for the next 30 days that will transform these concepts from interesting ideas into natural behaviors. This follows the 3M method: mastering yourself, mastering women, and mastering relationships. As research shows, you can never have a healthy relationship without a healthy relationship with yourself, without self-esteem and self-confidence. There is no point dating. Week 1. Observation and awareness. Focus. Notice your current patterns without implementing new approaches. Daily task. Identify when you fall into the compliment trap or notice tension in your body language. Practice. At a coffee shop, observe how other men interact with attractive women and note women's responses. Example. You might notice yourself tensing up and immediately complimenting a woman's appearance when introducing yourself. Week 2. New conversation patterns in low-pressure settings. Focus. Practice meaningful questions with people where there's no romantic pressure. Daily task. Use at least one substantive question in casual interaction. Practice. Ask a barista, What part of your job do you enjoy most? Or ask a colleague about a belief others might disagree with. Example, instead of asking how's your day, try what's been the most interesting part of your day so far. Week 3, implementing the Comfort Connection Framework. Focus. Apply new approaches in actual dating contexts. Daily task. Have one dating app, conversation or in-person interaction using the Validation Vulnerability Vision Framework. Practice. Track results in a journal, noting positive responses versus what felt awkward. Example, instead of "you look great," try "I appreciate how thoughtful you are about something she mentioned." Week 4. Body language integration. Focus. Maintain conversation improvements while adding conscious body language awareness. Daily task. Practice relaxed, open posture and appropriate eye contact during interactions. Practice. Record yourself in conversation to identify improvement areas. Example, notice if you're crossing arms defensively and consciously adjust to a more open stance. This staged approach builds your skills systematically, rather than overwhelming you with too many changes at once. Research on habit formation shows that trying to change everything simultaneously typically leads to abandoning the effort entirely. When mistakes happen, and they will, simply notice them and recover smoothly. If you catch yourself asking a generic question like "what do you do for work?" follow up with "actually, I'm more interested in what aspects of your work you find most meaningful." This shows self-awareness and redirects toward deeper connection. According to research, it takes between 21 and 66 days to fully internalize new behavior patterns. Your 30-day plan is just the beginning. By the end of these 4 weeks, you'll see significant improvement, but continue practicing until these approaches become your natural communication style. The key is consistency and self-compassion. Each interaction is an opportunity to refine your approach, not a high-stakes evaluation. This mindset allows you to learn from every experience rather than becoming discouraged by inevitable imperfect moments. A structured approach with deliberate practice will transform how high-value women respond to you. You'll notice the difference in both their initial interest and the quality of connections you create. What begins as conscious effort eventually becomes your authentic communication style, allowing you to build meaningful relationships with women who previously seemed out of reach. Let's wrap up with what this all means for your dating future and how these principles create more fulfilling connections with the kind of women you truly want to meet. The difference between men who connect with high-value women and those who don't isn't about looks or money. It's understanding that beautiful women need emotional security more than surface validation. What they truly want is to be seen beyond their appearance. Implement the Comfort Connection Framework. Starting today, use one conversation starter that builds emotional security. Ask what she's excited about or what unique beliefs she holds. Men who choose well and maintain their standards create the foundation for genuine connection. This addresses her deeper need for understanding. Ask yourself, what conversation will make her feel truly seen tomorrow? Your answer reveals your readiness for meaningful connection.